Hi there, I'm Eddie Spuhghetti, retro horror host and executive producer on City Slickers 3 Back in the Saddle. Per usual, I'm here just wasting a little bit of time, looking at how much my autographs are going for on eBay. Let's talk about something just as valuable. Let's talk about Garfield's Halloween Adventure. Yeah, I know it's not Halloween, who gives a shit? To those of you watching this who haven't heard of or seen it, Garfield's Halloween Adventure is one of the better holiday television specials in terms of production values, story, music, and rewatchability. I'd even go as far to say it's a spiritual successor to It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And there's a joke there, if you know what I'm talking about. TV specials, though, are a really fascinating part of television broadcasting history, as they played a vital role in helping networks shape the way that they produced content and utilized commercials. In the early days of TV, most of the weekly aired programs had one major sponsor, and they sorta had to play things by ear.
Friends, as you know, on Dragnet, we've always tried to emphasize the importance of facts, and when we talk to you about Chesterfield, we give you the facts.
Like if Lucky Strike cigarettes were sponsoring Howdy Doody and decided that kids don't smoke as many cigarettes as adults do, they can pull out a sponsorship and it would most likely cut the strings off that little wooden boy entirely. So, a more feasible approach involved creating one-off shows with several smaller sponsors. This practice would continue onwards and start to evolve into the creation of the miniseries, made-for-TV movies, and of course, TV specials. Though there are many different kinds of TV specials in general, ranging from telethons, special reports, and documentary-style retrospectives, it's the holiday ones that really achieve longevity over the others and manage not to become lost in the realms of old tape recordings.
Good evening, and welcome to our look at the 80s, a decade still making its mark on history, right up to the last moment.
Don't forget that a lot of these were also rebroadcast every year for quite some time. Both Charlie Brown's Halloween and Christmas specials still air to the date of this video's posting, and that's even more impressive when considering those originally came out in the 1960s. As for the eventual home video releases, a good amount of studios would later explore the capitalization of releasing them through their home video department in order to earn some more profits. Regardless of their easier availability, some specials would continue to be broadcast yearly by evolving into simply being tradition. Put yourself in the mindset of the network execs. Okay, awesome. People love this holiday shit, and they'll want to tune in to see it, so we can re-air them every year, and if we don't get the same sponsors, we can just create new commercial bumpers. Not so fast, Charlie Brown. Yeah, I realize we're supposed to be talking about Garfield, but I'm getting it. CBS decided they'd incorporate product placement within the specials instead of just commercial bumpers. Charlie Brown Christmas and The Great Pumpkin both had Coke as a major sponsor, and someone over at the studio said, "Hey, Carl Schultz. Hey, Carl, can you put Coke images or bottles or something into the show? We want that kid chugging that shit like no tomorrow." And all Charles Schultz can think is like, okay, but my name is Charles. So it was put in, and as you can guess, Coke didn't remain a sponsor for over 50 years. These shots were eventually removed after a few broadcasts, and no complete version has ever been released unless you happen to own a certain holiday companion VHS tape of mine. Hey, look at me. I'm doing product placement while talking about product placement. That's like a paradox or something, isn't it? Okay, enough about Charlie Brown. We're here to learn about the other mega CBS holiday special, Garfield's Halloween Adventure.
Well, I could just say rain, but we will go through the forecast. For tonight, here's how it looks. Cloudy and cold with intermittent rain or drizzle, a roll around 48 degrees. Now tomorrow, here is our Halloween forecast. Bone-chilling rain.
It's October 30th, 1985. A big-ass lunar eclipse was witnessed 2 days ago, but nobody gave a shit because 10 days prior, the fucking Nintendo Entertainment System was released in North America. But all the real cool kids like you are actually busy trying to figure out how to sneak into the 2 p.m. showing of Reanimator. When you get home, your parents ask how your day was, and you try not to say, "I saw a head give head." You clean up, eat dinner, and then afterwards switch on the TV and see a promo for a special coming up later called Garfield in Disguise. And you sit there thinking, that's a lame name for a TV special. So it turns out that this special was titled Garfield in Disguise for its original broadcast, and while I can't find any video proof of this, it seems to be recorded as fact through many different sources. My guess is it became Halloween Adventure the next year, after executives realized its potential for yearly holiday programming. It needs the holiday plunked into the title as a surefire way of getting people to watch. Remnants of the original title still exist in a book adaptation that came out in the same year, but it too would also eventually get the same title change. The TV special does contain Halloween and an adventure taking place on the night of, as Garfield and Odie discover the concept of getting free candy but get a sweet taste of greed when they try to expand outside their neighborhood, resulting in one heck of a spooky situation. Per usual, I won't really delve into where things go with the plot, but I will mention that shit gets supernatural without the help of two hunks in a car. This is the first of several Garfield specials to be animated by Film Roman, an animation studio founded by Phil Roman back in 1984. They would later go on to provide animation work on The Simpsons, King of the Hill, and a crap ton more. Phil directed the 3 prior Garfield specials to this one and would be one of the key players in these productions, alongside notable voice actor Lorenzo Music and award-winning musician Lou Rawls. Of course, Jim Davis, the creator of the Garfield comic strip, had a big hand in writing the stories and developing the path from page to screen for his creation. In fact, he even had some help from Charlie Brown creator Charles Schulz. One day while working on the very first Garfield special called Here Comes Garfield, Davis was trying to figure out how to show a cat dance around satisfyingly enough. Schulz was in the same studio at the time and gave Jim some pointers and encouragement, then probably told him, "Jim, it's a fucking cartoon." Okay, we get that Charlie Brown raised the bar here for Halloween specials, but what is it that Garfield has that gives Great Pumpkin a run for its money? Garfield's Halloween Adventure sort of became the Great Pumpkin of the 80s, and I'd bet an entire budget that it's the most well-known of the Garfield television specials. There's something about horror and the paranormal that people tend to gravitate to more, even sometimes over other cheerful and memory-gifting holidays like Christmas. Maybe it's an element where some of the spooky imagery becomes more embedded in our heads than cheerful bright lights and the season of giving, though you could apply those two things to Halloween as well. In the end, this special usually finds the number 2 spot behind Great Pumpkin, and part of that is thanks to name recognition and timing. Garfield's Halloween Adventure came out at a point in time when the Garfield franchise was already mass marketed, so it wasn't like this was some random special that had to really gain some traction to hang in there. It had some steam going in thanks to the popularity of the character, which continues to this very day. It was also broadcast when holiday-themed TV specials were well promoted and anticipated, gaining many young viewers who happen to be from a generation that thrives on nostalgia of that specific era and transcending into the 90s, where the special would continue to air every year. You also have all these elements: a talented animation studio, a team of artists who have worked together several times with this franchise, and utilizing a holiday that everybody loves. What they ended up with absolutely earned that Primetime Emmy Award. It's a simple story about trick-or-treating with an effort to actually make things scary, something that did tend to pop up from time to time with content aimed at children back then. There's some pretty eerie sequences here, but you never completely feel as if Garfield or Odie are actually in danger. Like somehow, these house pets are untouchable as they dash through panels of mood-capturing artwork and sing catchy songs by Lou Rawls. So catchy that I'll even catch myself humming them on a random occasion. Now, you're wondering, where does this special fit in with my own pre-celebrity past? And to explain it, I have to establish a benchmark of sorts, because this is going to come back to haunt us in quite a few videos to come. I want to introduce you to a significant part of my childhood: the dad tapes. After purchasing their first VCR for almost $1,000 in the early 80s, my parents officially joined the VHS bandwagon like everyone else at the time, my father being especially interested in the idea of creating your own compilations. It began with dubbing tapes using a rented machine, which led to a potpourri of broadcasted films and TV episodes, all of which had their commercials taken out after re-editing the content over to a fresh tape. This was a common edit, as my father strived to gain as much space on a tape as possible in order to fill its entire capacity with content. Exceptions were introductions and bumpers, although most of the time they were also eliminated. These tapes had custom-made labels that evolved over the years as better graphic creation software was made available, leading to richer, more colorful clip art selections that represented the content within. If you noticed, there's a lot of classic sci-fi and horror here, and that's mostly what I grew up on, ranging from silent-era epics like Nosferatu to mid-90s television specials hosted by I just filmed my last James Bond movie like 6 years ago, Roger Moore. But there weren't just sci-fi and horror tapes. Oh no, we had others like kids ones, which usually contained a few films, random TV episodes or specials, and Three Stooges shorts. There was one tape that had a few ghoulish selections on it, and smack dab in the middle, after Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, was Garfield's Halloween Adventure. Okay, so remember when I mentioned that my dad took the commercials off these things? Well, for the Garfield tape, he didn't. This tape was actually one of the earliest kids tapes that he made, but before I joined the family. So for a while, I had no idea when he made it until a user on YouTube uploaded the exact same commercial set. But for years before that, Garfield's Halloween Adventure was one of the coolest things on any of our tapes. Not just because of generally how good the special is, but with the commercials intact, it was like having a video time capsule. Though the tape eventually became victim to episodes of Star Trek Voyager, which will be the fate for several of them, the commercials are embedded in my head forever. Thanks to this, I was able to pinpoint 1988 as the year the recording was made because I eventually found the entire commercial block when it aired.
We can stop AIDS. We have to change our behavior. We have to take charge of our lives. That's hard, but isn't it worth it?
As for the special itself, I was just full on into it. I liked the scary bits, it didn't seem too kiddie-ish, and I was taken with the art style. As one of my favorite elements of the comparable Great Pumpkin is the French countryside sequence. It reeks of a tranquil and eerie mood, standing out drastically from the rest of that cartoon, much like it does here in Garfield's. Yet to be an IMDb fact is that I watched Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein perhaps 3 or 4 times a week when I was maybe 3 or 4 myself, and because Garfield's Halloween Adventure followed it, I'd also wind up sitting through that one too. Despite the fact that I've seen it way more times than necessary, it's honestly one of the few programs that has never lost its touch with me, and while the physical tape has long been replaced with Janeway and Chakotay, the memories will never be erased. If you also had a parental unit that created these things, you'll probably agree that they inspired and encouraged creativity, which transcended into your very own first mixtape of radio tunes or perhaps an early short film on your parents' camcorder. Now getting back to the 21st century, where does Garfield's Halloween Adventure fit in with things? Or maybe the question is, where do I get my suits tailored? While it has been digitized for our non-physical media world, Garfield's Halloween Adventure ended its broadcast run in 2015, and I personally don't feel that it ever got the same respect or status that the Great Pumpkin did. This may be due to age difference. We tend to associate classier content with the 50s and 60s, while the 80s and 90s lend itself to being flashier and more radical. It's unfortunate that these two Halloween TV specials are quite often compared, but these are the big two. They're the ones that lasted around the longest, and they were usually aired back to back. If there are children of that generation who watched it, who are now introducing it to their kids, I feel as if more of them will gravitate to Garfield than Charlie Brown. At least, I sort of hope they do. I like rooting for the underdog a bit too much. Or undercat in this situation. This is a neat little special that at least tried to incorporate the true scary elements of Halloween, and succeeded in many ways. So give it a whirl this year if you haven't before, and then enjoy singing What Should I Be every time you look in the closet to dress yourself. That's it for now. Thanks for stopping by. We'll do lunch.